You're tuned to The Drive on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. Steelers Nation Radio.
What's going on, Steelers Nation Radio? It's The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. Wes Uhler and Matt Williamson with you here on a Wednesday afternoon. Matt, how we doing? How we feeling?
Good, man. Midweek, it's time to start thinking about the opponent. You got to move on. So I don't think I've ever told you this, but back in the day, like when Twitter was new, I used to host a chat on ESPN.com. You know, a chat room, and everybody would come join.
Like a live chat, submit your questions,
and
answer them on the fly.
Very popular. I really enjoyed it. It was from noon to 1 every Wednesday. And that was like the perfect middle of the week when you like turn the page to next week. And that's where we're at right now, you know?
Absolutely. Kind of the moving and shaking in terms of coaches' press conferences and injury updates and all those things. Those tend to come out Monday, Tuesday. And then you're right, Wednesday's kind of the, all right, any final thoughts on everything that transpired?
Let's put that to bed.
And then let's start to look ahead here at the upcoming opponent, the upcoming week, the NFL slate.
Yep.
We've got another
especially from a media perspective, like where we sit.
100%.
We do 2 shows kind of recapping, chatting, blah, blah, blah. But now it's time like, okay, it's the middle of the road here,
Start to turn the page a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll have another very intriguing Thursday night football game that we'll discuss tomorrow as we are back and running and really into the thick of things here. We will also, about half an hour, 40 minutes from now, we're going to, I don't know if we'll do it every single week, Matt, but I think at least pretty regularly, a college quarterback conversation where we will lay out a lot of those 5, 6, 7 names, what they've been doing, stock up, stock down, a little college quarterback watch that I think we're going to continue to do and that everybody should be very interested in because a very high chance the Steelers are going to be swimming in those waters on the North Shore in April.
No question about it. I think there's a real good chance I think that's the plan. You know, now Rodgers could win the Super Bowl and the MVP and say, hey, I want to come back. Let's wait a year. All right, cool. You know, whatever. Draft it, whatever. But I think Steelers are going to be one of 5 to 7 teams or so heavily associated with first-round quarterbacks.
Without a doubt, and it feels like a good year to be one of those teams. There's certainly a lot of meat on that.
So far, so good, yeah.
And we will discuss that today as well, too. We'll catch up with Chris Halleck. And
new guest of the show. How about that?
New guest of the show. Chris Halleck going to be one of our regulars here. And a special guest of the show, Ben Skowronek, going to join us.
How about that?
As well, too, here in about 15 minutes or so. So that we can catch up on the big day that he had Sunday, the touchdown reception, the fumble recovery. We'll spend a few minutes talking to Ben Skowronek here in just a few minutes.
Highly useful player. You need those role guys. You need those fourth-line wingers. You know what I mean?
It's a great analogy. I think everyone is really – I mean, I don't know how you couldn't after Sunday's performance where his value, like I mentioned, those 2 massive plays, I thought he was – a net positive every time he was on the field.
Yeah.
And
it's been a common theme since he's been a Steeler.
And that's been a common theme since he's been a Steeler. It's not like they ask him to play a huge role, but what they ask him to do, he does very well, very effectively. And, be looking forward to talk to him about 15 minutes or so from now as the Steelers get ready for their home opener. I'm sure he'll be excited about that as well. But, Matt, we start with some news of the day as we tend to do here on this program. We had discussed some of the injury news from yesterday, the addition of Jabril Peppers, what that might mean for the active roster. Could someone be going on IR? How's that all going to look?
Somebody had to go.
If you're adding one, you got to subtract one. Led Zeppelin, if one goes in through the outdoor, you got to go out through the indoor, something like that. It's not the Rolling Stones, it's Led Zeppelin. That's all you need to know. Active roster additions today, Matt. Jabril Peppers and James Pierre moved to the active roster.
And real quick on Pierre, this is different than the game day call-up move. You know, this is now you're on the 53.
Correct, because he was still technically a practice squad guy.
Exactly.
Even despite
didn't make the final roster.
Even despite the game day call-up. So Jabril Peppers, of course, now of this parish, now a Pittsburgh Steeler, and James Pierre to the active roster. With that, Malik Harrison, who we talked about his knee injury yesterday, and Skylar Thompson have been placed on the injured reserve list.
Now, I know one's a corner, one's a safety, but I do find it interesting you add 2 defensive backs and don't subtract any. So does the Pierre move tell you that Porter's more doubtful than questionable? Let's start with that one. Or are they just sick of bringing him up because he's just like Skowronek and a core special teamer?
It could be a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I think we saw that they are very confident in their top 4 cornerbacks, and particularly with Ramsey and Eccles, whatever role they have to ask them to play.
Yes, agreed.
But
again, if Eccles is your 4th corner, that is way better situation. With all respect to Pierre, usually Pierre's like your 3rd or 4th, and he shouldn't be. He should be your 5th and your special teamer. If Eccles is your 4, I've been joking all week, like that's the best depth at corner they've had since the 70s.
I don't think it's particularly close.
Right.
And he's a guy he doesn't only check the you feel confident about him out there box, he checks the versatility box as well too.
Yeah, inside out.
He doesn't play. It's the Beanie Bishop conversation that we had. Beanie Bishop accounts for 1 helmet on game day. Eccles accounts for 3 helmets on game day.
Backs up 3 guys, right.
And that is quite often the difference in getting onto the field, and certainly the difference in feeling more confident in that group. So it's a good question for you to ask as it relates to Joey Porter.
First, it dawned on me, it was a couple minutes ago, but I also was thinking through this. You could always use Joey Porter. He's a really good player. But if this is a Ramsey following JSN situation, who's a heavy slot component guy, I kind of think Cooper Kupp shot, and Horton, the rookie, is their 3rd guy, and they don't play a ton of 3 wide. Maybe this isn't the best week, or maybe this is a good week to give Porter 1 more rest, and have Pierre active. Eccles is your 3. I can handle that. You know what I mean?
A lot of times, I think we can be too detail-oriented, pedantic. That's the big word to use, right? That's being obsessed with small details, pedantic.
Okay, look that up.
I think sometimes we can be pedantic with what coaches say week in, week out. But when Mike Tomlin was talking about Herbig and Joey Porter Jr.,
yeah,
I forget exactly now on the spot what the exact quote is, but he said he was optimistic about Joey Porter Jr., but very optimistic about Nick Herbig. Okay. So there was a distinction there between the two. Now that you asked that question, could that be...
They're not the same.
Could that be reading the tea leaves? They're not the same. Right. He used an extra, an extra word there to describe his excitement. Very optimistic for Nick Herbig, I believe, is what it was.
Okay.
So there was a little bit, looking back in hindsight, a little bit more of a distinction between those two who are in the questionable realm.
It reminds me of a conversation I had in the post-game show with Mike Pursuta, who's been probably at every Tomlin press conference and knows Tomlin speak after the years, and flat out, I'll tell you the story in a minute, but it was after Harmon's injury in the preseason, and Mike and I are hosting the pregame show, and a lot of us are like, "Oh, look, Harmon's on the sidelines. He's joking. He's not going on IR. Phew, they avoided a huge injury," which ended up being true. But Pursuta, and his, hate to say it, wisdom, is like Tomlin did say it. He used the word substantial with the injury. Like the words that come out of that head coach's mouth aren't accident ever. Like the fact that he deciphered between Porter and Herbig, the fact that he said substantial with Harmon doesn't mean he's practicing the next day, is what Hal Pursuta said. Like, tap the brakes. He could still be an IR guy, but it looks like he's avoided season ending. And he was right. It was end up being 4 to 5 weeks from the day of the injury,
And now that we're kind of all rehashing this too, he painted a more optimistic picture all throughout camp and preseason with Calvin Austin.
Yes.
And we saw him ready to go, no problem, no questions, week 1.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. We can be too pedantic with that stuff, but I think when it's someone like Mike Tomlin, who's been
his first year coaching, or our first year trying to decipher what he says.
Closer to his 20th year. It's closer to his 30th year coaching than it is his first year coaching. And so, you know what? I hadn't kind of put the tea leaves together in that regard, but
as we talk through it, maybe Porter's a little more questionable than you think, and Herbig isn't,
I think that's a fair thought process at this point. We will obviously consult injury reports and all of that as we roll along this week. Final kind of thing with that, now with Skylar Thompson to the reserved injured list as well, too. Logan Woodside has been bumped up
Yeah.
As Will Howard is still. Now, who knows? That could change.
Howard could come back.
That could change soon, too.
Right,
because he's
right.
kind of starting to get similar with Derek Harmon, right in that timetable of could be ramp-up period. But for now, Woodside's the one bumping up there. And if we don't hear anything about Will Howard's status, he would be obviously your emergency QB3 for the home opener on Sunday.
It's good to have Woodside around, but I think we saw enough of him to know what he is. Like if it gets to the point where he's in an NFL game, we got problems. You got major problems.
You've had some serious bad luck in the injury department, without a doubt, if that is the case.
Now we know this organization. It's not even a Tomlin thing necessarily. I mean, this is a Rooney thing for 50 years or whatever. They keep 3, and I bet they're a little nervous with 2 on the roster right this second. I mean, that's just not how they operate. So it tells me, again, I'm guessing that Howard must be close, and they're probably going to bring him back on real soon. You know what I mean? Real quick before I forget, doesn't break my heart that you're without Harrison for a while. Yeah, I mean, I think he's replaceable. You didn't even play a snap of Holcomb at inside linebacker. That card's still out there to be played. Bruner's a real good special teamer. Pierre's now on the active roster. You're okay. I mean, that doesn't hurt you. What I find kind of curious or funny, and not accusing them of anything, but did Skylar Thompson drop a headset or a the clipboard on his toe during the game? I mean, how did he get banged up?
Remember, on the last injury report before the game, he was listed with a
Was
hamstring.
he? Okay, I didn't pay much attention. Okay.
In that final Friday injury report,
you can get hurt in practice, I suppose.
He was listed before the Jets game.
It just works out well that you can place him there for a little bit.
I see the cynic in you.
Did you get a hangnail that I didn't know about? Okay. That's fine.
He jumped out of his car too fast and bumped his head on the roof of his truck.
A lot of ways you can get banged up out there.
There certainly are. We've seen some crazy ones, but yes, he was. You're right. I should have mentioned that too. He was on the injury report, the last injury report Fridays.
I didn't even pay attention. Didn't notice.
Heading into that Week 1 contest against the Jets.
And you'd hope you don't need him this week or
certainly.
See.
Certainly, and you feel. Obviously, goes without saying, very confident in Mason Rudolph as your number 2.
Very.
But you still want some, I think, greater insurance with your emergency quarterback. But that's the hand they've been dealt for now, and that's where we're at, and we'll navigate that as we roll along here. And
at any team, if you lose 2 quarterbacks in the same game, you're probably not winning either way. It's probably an L.
Yes, you're up to your waist in it at that point.
Yeah,
maybe even up to your shoulders or your chin. Matt, before we take a break here in a few minutes and get to Steelers wide receiver, special teamer, all-around contributor Ben Skowronek, I did want to unveil for you the inaugural Best of the West here on the Drive.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious how you're going to hit me with this.
So what it's going to be the majority of the time during the regular season is just my top 10 power rankings, my best teams in the NFL today.
Fair enough.
But I will throw you some curveballs because we do big picture power rankings on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
I will throw you some curveballs throughout the year. Sometimes it might be best top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL right now, top 10 running backs in the NFL right now, top 10 defensive coordinators in the NFL right now. We might switch it up a little bit.
Pizza joints.
And then when we get then when we get into the off season, it can be your top 10 favorite Led Zeppelin songs, things like that. But for today, Matt, it is the Best of the West, my top 10 teams in the NFL as we stand here today, Wednesday, September 10th.
So I have no room to be critical, but I will analyze. And
I would like you to be.
Yeah. Everyone's entitled to their opinion.
You're an
not
idiot.
Wrong.
You got that team way too high or way too low, or where's this team, where's that team.
Okay.
I will, almost like a college AP poll type, my 3 other teams receiving votes just outside of the top 10 are Pittsburgh, Denver, and the Chargers.
Okay.
Those are my just outside of the top 10 also receiving votes.
Okay.
Number 10, I've got the Minnesota Vikings.
I'm absolutely fine with that.
I
think I'd put, I guess the way to look at it, since I don't know your other 9, would I put the Vikings ahead of those 3 teams? Yes.
I know
Chargers were really impressive. Denver was really not.
Exactly right. Chargers are an interesting one.
Right. Herbert was really, really good.
Very, very good.
And I'm a believer to begin with.
For game 1, and I know he had his struggles, but the way he rebounded, if they can just get J.J. McCarthy to eliminate the mistakes, that Vikings team is going to be really good.
Everything else is there.
Everything else. I mean, he will ultimately determine their ceiling. And if they're a Super Bowl contender, a Super Bowl favorite, a division contender, a divisional favorite, But if they can just get some of the low-light tape stuff out of there, they are going to be a tough ask every Sunday.
Now, that was a really rough start to that game, but in a brutal environment, his first ever start. I mean, Bears fans are rampant on a Monday night, all lubed up, new coach, first overall pick quarterback they're finally excited about. Like, we should have known it was going to be a slow start for McCarthy. Do you feel better or worse about him now than you did 4 days ago? My opinion, I don't think changed. I still think it's a.
If I'm doing stock up, stock down,
I think stock's about the same. I still
Plateau.
don't know. It's
Plateau.
Still yeah.
A couple more data points.
Right. I would say it's still incomplete. For sure.
We'll revisit that before we go to Dublin and see him in person.
Absolutely.
After two more games,
two more games,
data points.
Like, oh, he's starting to get it.
Number 9, I got the LA Rams. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of questions, but if the defense plays like that, if Matthew Stafford is healthy,
I'd have him over the Vikes.
That's another team that, again, I don't know if they're quite Super Bowl contenders, certainly not Super Bowl favorite.
They gave the Eagles all they could have in the playoffs last year, too.
They played the Eagles the best of anybody in the postseason.
Yeah.
I think their defense might even be a little bit better.
I agree.
And if Matthew Stafford continues to do Matthew Stafford things, he's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. That's a really good team and well coached too.
Yeah, I think he's the best coach in the league. I'm not sure if we've had that conversation, but I used to think it was Reed. I think McVay can do so many different things. Stafford played like a top 5 quarterback this past week, and we can talk about his back all you want, but if he's out there, I can't talk about. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a chiropractor. I don't know anything about his back. If he's out there, I'm going to evaluate him, and he's out there. So let's go.
And if he blows out his back in week 7, guess what? They're not going to be, number 9 in my power rankings that week. They'll drop substantially, but with what we know right now. And
I understand there's more risk with him than others, but this is true for all starting quarterbacks. I mean, if Josh Allen gets hurt, they're not going to be in the top 3 either or whatever,
Number 8, I've got the Lions. I think
disappointing week 1.
But I think that will be their low point.
I tend to agree, too. That's another tough situation.
Lambeau Field, 2 new coordinators, reworked offensive line,
Yeah.
Micah Parsons thrown into the mix. That's a tough ask week 1 for Detroit. I think that'll be their low point. I think they'll improve. Like you've mentioned, I don't know if that Super Bowl window is still open for them, but I don't think that means that they're suddenly a bad team either.
Right.
They just might be second tier in the NFC instead of first tier. I've got them at number 8.
I'm cool with that. I would have them ahead of those other 2 NFC teams you just mentioned. LaFleur, to me, is also a massively underrated coach, and especially offensive mind.
All he does is go to the playoffs, win double-digit games.
All the time, right. And, Love was out for a while, so they run the ball a ton with Willis and still, are highly competitive. That's a new defensive coordinator going up against a masterful offensive mind in week 1. Yeah, I don't think the Lions are going anywhere as a top 10 type of team. I don't know that they're a Super Bowl champion type team.
We might not have them in the top 5 like we did the last couple years, but I think that 6 to 10 range, they'll still comfortably be there. Number 7, this is maybe the hardest team to judge for me, but I got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I just think the way that they were able to, the way Baker Mayfield was able to knock off some early rust.
Yeah.
The way that they were able to get, as you talked about this yesterday, they moved Graham Barton, their center, to tackle because their best offensive lineman, Tristan Wirfs, is out.
It's a second-year guy, too, right.
Their wide receivers are banged up, but you got Emeka Egbuka out there making plays.
Playing really well.
I think the Bucs are a good team right now who is only going to get better as again, you got to have that good fortune happen, but if they get some of these reinforcements back on offense.
I think they're a team, too, now that has earned the benefit of the doubt. Some of it goes back to the Brady era, but since then they just win the division every year, and we just kind of like, right, there's something to be said for a winning organization that gets it. And I think Todd Bowles has leveled up a little bit as a head coach as well. New offensive coordinator. It's only 1 game, but it doesn't seem like it held them back in any major way. Sitting there thinking, would I go Lions or Bucks? Splitting hairs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Bucs made the playoffs 5 straight years. I think they've earned benefit of the doubt as an organization. A team that hasn't earned benefit of the doubt as an organization. This was another tough one for me, but I've got them at number 6 because of how much I believe in the quarterback, and I think they found something at running back. I got the Washington Commanders at number 6.
They go to Lambeau tomorrow.
That's what I was talking about, that Thursday night game. We're going to really get to know them and the Packers a little bit better Thursday night.
So my reservations, I think they're a lot like the Bengals, and I think their offense can be top 5 and their defense could be bottom 5. But I do believe in the quarterback. Their offensive line changes really paid off in week 1. 2 new tackles, a first-round guy, Tunsil at left. They get to move Coleman from tackle to guard. So they got better at like 3 spots. Mm-hmm. Even one of their best guys, Cosme, still wasn't even in there in the O-line. They ran the ball really, really well. Debo paid off huge right off the bat. I mean, they got him the ball more than McLaurin, and looks like he's really going to be a focal point. They're pretty good. I would probably have them behind Tampa and Detroit.
Okay.
But they're definitely in the top 10.
I think they're certainly in the top 10.
Daniels might be special.
Maybe I'm giving them a little too much credit because the last time we saw them before week 1 was in the NFC Championship game. Yeah. And then Jaden Daniels doing what he does in week 1.
Yeah.
I think that
they're hard to argue with.
Barring obviously something unforeseen where they even improve from last year, which you and I don't think is going to be the case, this is the highest I'll have them.
You know, I could see that.
Coming off the NFC Championship game, what we saw from Daniels week 1, I don't think I'll have them much higher than 6, again, unless they just shatter what we think their ceiling is for this year.
Yeah.
But I think they'll be in about the 6 to 11-ish range for most of the year.
I get that. I didn't pick them to go to the playoffs. I think it's harder to go to the playoffs in the NFC than AFC, but I also think there's a lot of AFC teams coming at the top of the league here as well. My thing I want to watch for with Washington is what's their defense do in Lambeau tomorrow? I mean, that's a short week, and that's going to be a difficult conversation for anybody. But I don't know if the Giants could exploit what I don't think was a great defense. We'll see if the Packers can.
That we will. A little over 24 hours from now. Into the top 5, not a lot of surprises here. I've got the Chiefs at 5.
Yeah.
I think they were the least impressive, certainly, of the quote-unquote elite teams, but sure. I'm still keeping them in that group.
I did a mailbag podcast today, and you'd be blown away how many questions were, are the Chiefs done? Time to write them off. I'm like, they were 15-2 last year and went to the Super Bowl. I mean, this is their 4th loss since opening day of last year, including 3 playoff games. Like, done. Maybe I'm a little concerned. Yeah. The weapons are banged up and old, and
they might go 12-5 instead of 15-2,
right.
But that doesn't mean that they're cooked.
I mean, we were doing predictions, and people were like, "Oh, I'm predicting the Chiefs aren't even making the playoffs." I'm like, I don't think they're going from 15 wins to 8. I mean,
not with the quarterback and the head coach.
No, and they know how to win. And I don't know who they play this week, but I'm going to pick them. I mean, after losing, and are they going to lose 2 in a row?
I got the Ravens at number 4.
I'm fine with that.
They could be.
You have to have them below the Bills, but I still think if they played the Bills 111 times in Wichita, Kansas, they beat them. They win the series.
Number 3, I've got the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay. Eagles versus Packers I was asked about today, and I'm torn. And the best team in the NFC.
I think the Eagles are still great, but I don't think the defense is going to be quite what it was last year.
They got a number 2 corner issue.
They got a number 2 corner issue.
Yeah.
They're not their defensive front. They're not as deep as they were along that defensive line last year. And they still have a loaded offense, but I don't know if the offensive line is going to be quite as great as it was last year.
That's a great point. I don't know if the interior. I still think Lane and Mulatto will be crazy.
Best tackle combination in the league.
Yeah. And the inside will be fine. And that's not what they're used to. Dickerson's playing with an injury right now,
And that's not a good way to start the season.
No. I have some blurb on my phone. I think Goddard's banged up too.
Number 2, nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah. I think a big story with Buffalo is Keon Coleman came on really, really strong in week 1. So, as people know, I do a lot of shows, and I did a dynasty show this morning of whose dynasty stock rose the most from week 1. And it was Coleman. But, I mean, he didn't go from the 10th receiver to the 8th. I mean, he went from 50th to the 30th. Like, he could be their number 1. I mean, they have not really had a number 1 since Diggs. And he's different than the guys they've been thrown to, the Kincaids and Shakirs of the world. I mean, that's one more thing that they've added recently that could pay off for them. I mean, Allen in himself makes them a top 5 team. He's so remarkable to watch.
That he has entered that stratosphere for me of I don't like the Bills' offense as much as I like some of these teams' offense, but they got Josh Allen.
Yeah, right.
I don't like the Bills' defense as much as I like is some of these teams, but they got Josh Allen.
Yeah, right.
I
mean, he's getting to the point now where if you could line up all the Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and I used to say this about Rodgers when he was in his prime, and we're picking teams, there's not many I'm taking ahead of him. I mean, like
maybe Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, like ever. I'm talking about. I'm like,
got you.
Do I want Favre or Allen? I'll take Josh. Do I want Elway or Allen? That's where I'm at. I mean, like, who do you want to play? Do you want to play against him?
No,
ever.
Ever.
Right?
He's so hard to game plan for because
right.
he can beat you in so many different ways. And number 1, the Green Bay Packers.
I get it. I mean, you wipe the floor with the Lions.
With a division champion.
Right.
From
with
the previous
a team that
year.
should be in your top 10 and clearly is. That's a statement game. I mean, that was as much of a statement game. Bills beat the Ravens, but it wasn't like, man, they're way better.
It wasn't over in the fourth quarter already.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that game was a statement game.
So there's your, well, I guess now week 2, best of the West.
Okay.
Not bad.
I can't quibble with it too much.
Yeah, the Commanders down a few spots lower, but I think other than that, not too much beef there, right?
I guess one team I want to mention that has not been mentioned and didn't make your just miss. They would not be in my top 10. Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd be in my top 13 either.
They might be, because I had 3 others in the receiving votes.
Right.
I think Cincinnati would be 14.
Okay. I mean, they were not. They did not play well in week 1.
No, they didn't.
I don't think they were even the better team. But Burrow and Allen aren't the same, but they have Joe Burrow. I mean, that's all you can keep going back to. Yeah, they got that guy.
I think that they will be involved in this conversation, certainly.
Curious what they do. I don't know the schedule very well this week. I'm curious where they're headed.
The Cincinnati Bengals.
I know the Browns get the Ravens, which
they're at home against Jacksonville. The Bengals are this Sunday.
Ooh.
Interesting one there. Interesting one with the Jags team that looked pretty good on Sunday.
They did.
Matt, let's take a break. When we come back on the other side, Ben Skowronek, one of the heroes of Sunday's victory, a handful of pivotal plays in special teams and on offense. We'll talk to him about that win and the upcoming challenge against this Seattle Seahawks defense that is on the horizon Sunday, 1 o'clock at Acrisure Stadium. All that and more as we roll along. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. It is The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Back on The Drive here as we now go to the phone lines and we welcome a special guest from your Pittsburgh Steelers, a huge part of that 34-32 win over the Giants to open the season. It is wide receiver Ben Skowronek. Ben, thank you so much for taking the time, and I just got to ask you, I mean, you were a part of 2 very integral plays in the Steelers securing victory. Of course, your touchdown reception and then your fumble recovery on special teams. Which one of those did you enjoy more? I imagine it was the touchdown reception, Steelers' first touchdown of the season. But I also know the pride you all put in taking your work on special teams. Which one of those got you a little more jacked up?
I don't want to offend anybody in the organization, so they both got me, pretty jacked up.
Good answer.
Yeah, I don't want to offend anybody, but it was fun scoring a touchdown.
So Wes kind of mentioned it. I mean, you've become an exceptional special teams player, and I'm always curious. Like, I don't know your history, but I assume you were a pretty darn good high school player and a great junior high player. And when did you get thrust into special teams, and at what age and what stage of your development did you really dedicate yourself to becoming as good as you are in that phase?
Well, actually, I played some kickoff in high school.
Did you?
Kickoff, and I played kickoff return, but I always liked kickoff because I played a lot of offense and I was able to just run down the field. And usually in high school, the guys that end up going D1 and make it to the NFL, they're usually, bigger, faster, and stronger than the people they're lined up against. So I would just run down the field and just smack somebody, and that was a lot of fun. And then when I got to college, I did not play much special teams at all. And when I went to the NFL, I found out out, if you're not a starting player, you better play special teams or you're not going to have a job for long. So I had a great coach my first 2 years in LA, Joe D. Camillus, and he made it fun and taught me a lot. And then, obviously coming here, then I had Chase Blackburn my third year in LA, and he taught me a bunch of stuff. And then I came here and, have, a Hall of Fame coach in Danny Smith and, older players to learn from. So, I'm still evolving. There's still things I can get better on in that phase of the game. But just being an offensive player that's able to go cover kicks, it's a lot of fun for me because, I hate being labeled as a receiver. I'd rather have the Steelers list my position as FP, football player, because I like to tackle, I like to block, I like to catch. I just, want to be a football player first. And Coach Salmon always emphasizes the importance of special teams and team meetings and stuff. So, it's a very big part of what we do in Pittsburgh, PA. And, you saw it on Sunday. It turned the game a little bit for us.
Ben, I was the director of football ops at Akron a million years ago when Chase Blackburn was our star linebacker. That's a good guy to learn from, man.
Oh, he's a great guy, man. I had a lot of fun.
That's awesome. That's cool.
I talked to him on Sunday night, so we stay in touch still, and he's a great guy.
That's a full circle moment here on the Steelers Audio Network. Ben, what's that mindset for you like, though? Because, when DK Metcalf catches a touchdown pass, he gets to go to the sidelines and get some pats on the back and breathe for a minute. You catch a touchdown pass and you're right back out there into a different phase of the game. What's that mindset, that focus have to be like for you?
Well, yeah, you just want to celebrate with your teammates. Obviously the offensive line works hard, and then, all 11, and then the guys on the sideline want to congratulate you, And for me on that one, I told myself all offseason, once we got Aaron, I was like, if I catch a touchdown from him this year, I'm keeping the ball. Well, the funny thing is, it was his first touchdown with the Steelers too, but, he said I can keep the ball. I want to get that one signed from him because he's going to be a gold jacket guy, so that'll be cool.
He's thrown a bunch of them.
Yeah, he's got like 500 some.
Right.
So, that was the first order of business. I was like, all right, I got to get this ball to somebody, get this thing, make sure I get this ball, back to Pittsburgh. Let's not use it the rest of the game. And then luckily there's a TV timeout because you're out of breath when everyone's jumping on you and everything. So there's a TV timeout, and then just back to business. Got to go cover kick. And then, for me, like you said, guys like DK, he's our number one guy, so he just plays offense. But I got to be alert all game, whether it's punt return, kickoff return, field goal block unit, stuff like that. So just got to be alert on the sidelines. Obviously you want to enjoy the good moments, but it's the NFL. If you're, one play doesn't define a game, and you better, make more.
Ben, we don't want to keep you long, but I have to ask you, how much of a stickler for route running and precision is Aaron Rodgers? Sure, he certainly has a reputation.
It's funny you say that because, being around the league, you kind of hear that. Like me being a sports guy, a football lover, I watch stuff, see stuff, and, that's always been his reputation of he's hard on the receivers, but I've never really noticed anything that he's too hard on us. I think he just wants to win, and I think we have a group that wants to win. So when he makes a coaching point, it's not like he's being hard on us. It's something that, we expect. We want to be great, and he wants to be great. And, I think the group we have of skill players, there's coaching points that, I think him being demanding is a good thing. I don't think it's a negative thing at all. And, he's not, too demanding to the point where, like, he gives us freedom out there to do, put our own flavor on things and stuff like that. But I think that narrative that he's hard on his receivers, I don't see it. I don't think we have a soft group of people who can't, take coaching from somebody who's won 4 MVPs, won a Super Bowl, had so much success in this league. It's like, don't you want those coaching points? He's coached, Devontae Adams, or played with Devontae Adams, and obviously, like, played with a ton of great players and coaches, and just has so much more football IQ than us. It's like, give me all the information I can get. And I think that's the mindset, DK has, certainly, Calvin Austin, Roman, Scotty, and myself, the tight ends, we're all asking questions. The coaches ask him questions. He asks the coaches questions. It's just a good working environment that we have. And, so far since Latrobe to week 1, I've learned so much football, and, it's fun working with a guy like that. A guy that every single route you run, you can be open. He'll find you. It's not like some other quarterbacks where they're kind of limited in what they can do mentally. Aaron's a very bright guy. He's fun to play with, and I think we're just coming in every day, practice, meetings, whatever, and just having fun and playing football. It's pure football out here in Pittsburgh. It almost feels like we're playing high school again, man, because Coach Tomlin, all he cares about is winning. And I think the culture of the city, man, is awesome. And I think Aaron's really, bought into that. And, I'll speak for myself. When I came here last year, I was kind of shocked. It was like, it's all football out here. That's what everyone cares about. I love my time in LA, but there's a lot of other things to do out in LA. So, I've really enjoyed it out here in Pittsburgh. I think he's enjoying it. And, I think our team is real close and just wants to win football games.
Ben Skowronek, Steelers FP football player, kind enough to give us a few minutes of his time here on a busy day. Ben, thank you so much, and all the best in the home opener against Seattle on Sunday.
I appreciate you guys. I can't wait.
We are looking forward to it. Ben Skowronek, there he goes. Great stuff from him, and thanks to Steelers PR for hooking us up with that. I like that, Matt. FP football player.
That he qualifies 1,000%.
He certainly does, and I don't think that's just going to be a one-week phenomenon. I expect to see that from him all throughout the season. We have got to get to a break. We'll go around campus, little college conversation as we continue to monitor these quarterbacks when we return. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. It is The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Back on The Drive here. It is not Matt Williamson's first rodeo. And great stuff there with Ben Skowronek. Thanks to him for taking a few minutes with us. And like you always point out, Matt, there is not as much time in the week for these players, for these coaches, as people assume.
No, they got a lot of stuff to do.
They got a lot of stuff. They got on-field work. They got off-field work. They got therapy and recovery and installs and meetings and a million different things. So big thanks to him. Big thanks to everybody with Steelers PR for setting that up for us.
I'm sure hockey, basketball, and baseball coaches would massively dispute it. But you need way more time to prep for a football game, just X's and O's. I'm not even talking like body healing and all that stuff compared to, there's a set play and then you stop. There's so much randomness in those other games.
It's not even close.
It's not even close.
Baseball obviously is its own entity because it's the most controlled. One pitch, one batter, one pitcher, one batter. I'm
sure there's a ton of scouting the starting pitcher, no question. But I don't think it takes a week.
Think about it in baseball. Once they get past training camp, spring training, they don't even practice. They're playing 6 games a week.
Yeah, right.
You can't practice.
I think they have batting practice. And,
you got 162 games.
I'll get enough practice tonight from.
You're playing 6 games a week and traveling on the other day. You're not practicing like crazy.
How often is hockey practice?
Few times a week.
Okay, on off days.
On off days, if the Penguins are coming back from Minnesota, they'll probably get an off day, as opposed to if they're home and they have an off day, that'll be a practice.
They'll come in and get treatment and practice.
Same with basketball.
Probably different levels of intensity.
Coaching certainly matters in basketball and hockey, without a doubt. It matters in baseball too. It matters in everything, but football's its own animal.
It's not even close. Right?
Not even close.
Not to mention you stop. You run a specific
play.
Right.
A formation to defend that play.
Right. Nothing's really improv,
I think, again, I'm being too. It's not actually the truth, but give me 27-year-old LeBron James.
Yeah.
And I don't care how much I know my X's and O's. I'm good with.
You might not win it all. You might get outcoached in the playoffs or something, but you'll probably have a winning record.
But I bet you'll go to the post. Give me 27-year-old Kobe or somebody like that, and I'm at least going to the playoffs as a basketball coach.
Let alone give me Shaq and Kobe.
Exactly right.
I should do pretty well.
LeBron and Dwayne Wade.
Yeah.
I think a lot of coaches could figure that one out. Matt. To campus we go. Maybe that's what we could call this around campus. Maybe this segment that we're going to do on checking in on these college quarterbacks.
All right, I'm going to stop you super quick, as I often do. Sorry.
That's all good.
I'm a little concerned because you watch a lot more college football than me. So I don't know that I'll be on top of what is completion percentage. I definitely won't be.
No, that's fine.
Who they even played the week before. But I absolutely am looking forward to this segment because I want to keep up with all these guys, or at least a couple of them a week. Like, I watched Mateer a lot.
I know you did. You
Started
were
to fall in
tweeting
love
about
with them. But Saturdays, I'm not glued to the TV because it's the only day I'm kind of doing other things. But I can't wait for this segment. I think this is great and very needed.
Absolutely. And I'm not going to go crazy deep into the week because there's like 5 or 6 guys that we'll want to touch on every single week.
Absolutely.
And I watch a lot of college football, but it also varies because, like, this past Saturday, I was getting on a plane to New York, which in the middle of the day. So I'm watching the noon games before we take off. I'm flipping it on as soon as we land.
But you know, like, all the top 25 scores.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I don't even know that stuff.
This coming Saturday, Matthew.
Oh, we got good stuff coming up?
I'll be leaving my house bright and early to go about 70, 80 miles south on 79 to Morgantown, and I'll be tailgating and out there the whole day for the 3:30 backyard brawl that I do not anticipate is going to go well for my Mountaineers.
Are they a dog?
But I'll 7-point dog at home.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, how about that?
That tells you just.
But you'll just be fanboy on Saturday. Oh, yeah. Big time.
The one thing in my life that is still.
That's awesome,
I mean, I do a WVU show and podcast, but like, I'm a season ticket holder for football. And
you always will be.
It's pure enjoyment.
Yeah,
yes,
of course.
Absolutely. And so, even when we're good, which we haven't been for a long time, even when we stink like we do right now, I will be there, baby, because these colors don't run, even though I do anticipate Pat Narduzzi and Pitt having their fair share of fun at Mountaineer Field Saturday
afternoon.
afternoon.
Decent this year, right?
I think Holstein's pretty good. I think Desmond Reed's pretty good. I think they've got a solid defense. I think Florida State and Miami are the best 2 teams in the ACC, pretty clearly. Clemson as well too, but I think Pitt could be towards the top of that next tier.
They're above average.
As much as I hate to say it.
Okay.
And WVU's got a brand new staff, 81 new players on the roster. We are not there right now, not even close. So Saturdays, a lot of times I'm down in Morgantown the whole day, but I love college football. It's my favorite, just pure spectator sport, just from a take work and what I do for a living out of the equation. So I think it'll be a lot of fun for us to go through this and everything. We will talk about your boy Mateer here in a minute, but I think it's hard not to start these conversations with Lenoris Sellers every week, as he's, I think, everybody's assumed number 1 at this point, and that could change. They played South Carolina State this past week. That's their,
hard to judge that.
That's their FCS game.
Yeah.
And he didn't do a ton. You know, he had 128 passing yards, a touchdown, no turnovers, no interceptions or anything like that. But it was a lot of, we're playing an inferior opponent. We're not going to expose our. We're not going to. They handed the ball off a lot. They didn't ask him to run much at all. He had just 23 rushing yards and was out of the game. You know,
it's exactly how they should handle that situation. They have bigger fish to fry.
So he's another one of those kind of like, I don't know if the arrow's pointing up or down. It was just go through the motions, and we're going to get out of here with a comfortable win type.
Real quick on him, I think a lot of people and probably some of our listeners are like, oh, man, he'd be a great Steeler. They should grab him, maybe move up a couple spots. And, and I don't know where the Steelers are going to end up, but we always assume they're going to pick 20th because they kind of always had. I just knowing what I know about what scouts look for and how this whole draft process works, he might be the consensus number 1 overall when it's all said and done. I'm not sure I could say that about Klubnik or Nuss or those guys.
Yeah.
But I look at this guy and be like, if Anthony Richardson goes 4 or 5, this guy might be easily number 1 if he has a good year.
If you're going to Vegas right now and you're putting a chip on the table of which quarterback is first off the board and which player is first off the board in late April on the North Shore of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, when this all goes down, he would be the odds-on favorite for both. Both of them.
I would think.
First quarterback, first overall. Right now.
I would say it's
a lot of time between now and then, but.
And I bet the odds only pay off worse and worse going forward.
You're not
unless he's terrible.
You're not getting very good odds.
Right.
First overall pick, you might still get okay odds. First quarterback, I don't think you're getting too much juice on that squeeze.
And that's kind of with the assumption that Arch isn't going to be involved. I'm not washing him out.
We'll mention him in a minute. I don't think he's going to be involved.
I don't either.
Because Texas is going to pay him $10-12 million to come back next year, and why would you?
Grandpa's not a believer in coming out early.
Correct.
History hasn't been as kind to those guys as dudes to say. He doesn't need the money.
But he can still make. He can make close to what he would make as a top 10 pick, anyways.
That's nuts, yeah.
And who wouldn't want to stay in
beautiful
Austin, Texas?
Pretty good life.
For what he'll probably be taking ballroom dancing and wine tasting as his two
like what Matt Leinart took,
as his 2 classes. Yeah. Let's talk about your boy John Mateer, because his stock was up more than...
First time I really watched him.
More than anybody's. Matt...
Primetime game helps and all that.
It sure does.
The exposure situation.
That was I think, some of the better tape that you'll see from him this year.
I'm sure.
Because he was very good against Michigan's in a weird spot as a program right now. They got Wink Martindale as their defensive coordinator.
I bet they have some dudes.
They've got $1 zillion in NIL, right? Like, even if they go 8-4 this year, that defense is still legit and is going to have
That's a real game.
Has an NFL defensive coordinator with a lot of NFL defensive talent. You saw the interception. I'm trying to think, like, maybe kind of similar to a conversation that we had with Josh Allen when he came into the league. The highlight tape is there.
Oh, yeah.
So is the risk. So is the low light. So is the kind of the Caleb Williams conversation. One play, it's wow, where did that come from? The next play, it's what the heck were you thinking? But he did a very good job of limiting that what the heck were you thinking against Michigan. And if he continues to do that, he could be a top 10 pick without a doubt.
So you'll see my view on the Steelers' next quarterback, or no matter what team it would be, if I'm investing in a high draft pick quarterback. If I strike out, I strike out, but I am going to get my cuts in. That was my complaint with the Pickett deal. Dale and I, Pickett was the 20th pick in the draft. Dale and I did our top 20 prospects for the Steelers. He was not in my 20. He was actually 21st, so close.
Right there, yeah.
But my complaint was, if he hits, I don't think he can hit Josh Allen hit. You know what I mean? Like, I think I'm looking for superheroes. And I know Mateer's only 6'1", which probably means he's 6'0", 3 or something at the combine. He's probably under 6'1" if he's listed at 6'1", but he's not short. And he's got a weird build. He kind of looks like a fullback, but he uses it to his advantage. I mean, it's not like he's stiff or, unathletic or doesn't change direction as well. And I noticed a lot of his throws are on a line. It's not always the most catchable ball. Kaepernick was that way. Got to put a little more touch on it. Everything doesn't have to be a 95-mile-an-hour fastball, especially a deep ball. But, boy, he is so athletic and flat-out fast and accelerates so quickly. And his arm, he has easy gas as a thrower. I mean, it's flick of a wrist. I mean, he's got all that stuff to work with. Does he need reeled in a little bit? Of course. And all these guys have it. But, boy, is he competitive, too. And you get to see that it rubs off on his guys.
Oklahoma really struggled mightily last year, particularly on offense. They went 6-6 last year, Matt.
Okay.
If their defense wasn't a top 10, top 15 defense in college football, Oklahoma would have had their first losing record as a program since the 90s, I think.
Okay.
Like, they are one of the more they've only won
they're always great. Yeah.
They've only won one national championship in the 21st century. That was with Bob Stoops in like 03 or 04, 02, whenever it was. Right before that USC and Tim Tebow kind of takeover there, where it was USC and Florida winning the national championships for that stretch.
Was White their quarterback? He won the Heisman that year?
I believe so, yes.
Because I remember
before Sam Bradford.
I was with Pitt with Larry, and we thought Larry should have won the Heisman.
Larry should have won the Heisman. He absolutely.
I still believe.
And even as Pittsburgh's foremost Mountaineer, will tell you that Larry Fitzgerald should have won the Heisman that year. But they have been, if you go and look, they are the most consistently good, like them in Ohio State. Even Alabama in the 21st century has had 5-6 win seasons, losing seasons before Saban got there. They were down.
They were down, and they're looking like they're a little
Oklahoma, a
worse
6-6 season to them is like, same with Ohio State. It's like the sky
It's like the
falling.
Steelers going 3-12.
Exactly right. Exactly right. One thing that I really give, if we see the progression from Mateer, it's kind of a similar, I should have mentioned this during the power rankings, the best of the West, when we were talking about Josh Allen. Quarterbacks that succeed with defensive head coaches, I give more credit to.
Yeah, I agree.
I give Ben credit for that. I give Allen credit for that. That they didn't have Andy Reid, an offensive mastermind, as like Mahomes does.
I love Drew Brees, but he played in the dome with Peyton.
Correct.
That's different than Ben.
Mateer, Brent Venables, Oklahoma's head coach, is a defensive guy. He was Clemson's defensive coordinator in the Watson-Lawrence eras when Clemson won those 2 national championships. So if he develops, I will they obviously have a very good offensive coaching staff. It's Oklahoma. They've got one of the biggest budgets of any program. They're in the SEC. They've got money, but his head coach and their program is based on defense. as opposed to, some of these other guys like a Garrett Nussmeier of LSU, who's got Brian Kelly, who's an offensive quarterback.
And his dad's an offensive coordinator in the league.
Right. So that's just the final note I wanted to make with Mateer as well, too.
Here's one note, too, that you'll notice when we start talking quarterbacks is I'm going to aim for the sky. If I miss, so be it. But if I only hit 1 out of 3 and end up with Josh Allen every 20 years, you're still thrilled. And I mentioned how competitive Mateer is. And I hesitate to do that at times, but his really stands out in terms of aggressiveness and taking the extra hit or dragging tacklers and all that stuff. Because I believe at this stage, if you're telling me he's first one in the building, last guy out, or he'll do anything to win a game, I'm like, okay, he can come sit at the table at the conversation. If he doesn't have that, bye. So like that's the ante. Everybody has that. Everyone you're playing against has that.
That's like you work hard. Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
So does everybody.
That's step one.
That's your key card just to swipe into the
now
door.
Now you're allowed
in
the room. Right. That's the ante to sit at the poker table.
Matt, I should have probably mentioned, and I started with Sellers, and then I knew you wanted to talk about Mateer. I should have probably lumped in like Drew Aller of Penn State, Cade Klubnik of Clemson, Nussmeier of LSU. They were all in that same conversation as Sellers, where they played some pushover opponents this week in week 2.
Yeah.
They played
this
well.
The game wasn't
they
as
played
good,
well. They managed the game. They handed the ball off. They didn't do anything crazy.
There's not much to report.
There's not a lot to report. They checked the box of doing their job and getting their team out with a comfortable. Well, for Clemson, they were actually down 16-0 to Troy at one point, but comfortable win in the macro for all those guys.
Yeah. Okay.
And then
I know there wasn't a lot of marquee games.
Arch Manning, kind of same thing. Like, we should mention him because he's just a name that everybody knows and wants to hear about. They beat up on San Jose State. He threw for 4 touchdowns, looked much better. I mean, hard not to based off of how he started week 1 in Columbus against Ohio State. But okay, that's what you wanted to see from Arch to bounce back against a bad opponent.
So I just noticed this as a random thing, and a lot of these quarterbacks it semi-applies to, but just watching the ticker, top 25 scores, I can't remember many weeks where more teams won by 60, 70. Like Florida State won by like 70 or something. It's like, geez.
So the college schedule has kind of changed in a weird way. It used to be week 1 was your FCS, beat the crap out of them opponent.
Preseason, yeah, right.
Week 2 was like a G5.
Okay.
An Akron, a South Florida, somebody like that.
They come to your building, a little bit better, pay them well,
and then week 3 was like your out of conference rival or your Ohio State Texas type game.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of changed now is where they're scheduling week 1 because they know the NFL season's not there and they have the attention.
They got Labor Day.
South Carolina's playing Virginia Tech. Ohio State's playing Texas. LSU's playing. Who did they play? Not Florida State. Somebody. The LSU played somebody. Was it Miami?
They played Clemson.
Clemson.
Yeah,
that's who it was. Clemson
versus
right?
us. Yeah.
Notre Dame's playing Miami. College football's really started moving those big non-conference games.
We got real eyeballs on Labor Day weekend
because it's Labor Day weekend,
it's like
and you don't
4-day adventure. Too.
Don't have to compete with the NFL. I also wanted to mention our boy Fernando Mendoza, quarterback of Indiana, who, Matt, you watch everybody else who's doing these type of quarterback report things around Pittsburgh. No one's mentioning Fernando Mendoza. So
they should be.
I'm hoping that he's our guy that everybody else will hop on the moving train later than us. Kennesaw State, terrible opponent, but he did what you wanted him to do. 245 yards, 72% completion percentage, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Played very well against a bad opponent. Clean game.
Yeah.
Their schedule starts to ramp up. They've got Indiana State, one more kind of pushover, but then they get into that Big Ten slate, and we'll really start to learn more about him.
What's a little interesting with him, I think probably goes without saying, is there'll be a lot of games where his team's not as talented as the opponent, where that only happens maybe twice to Aller or Nussmeier or Klubnik, or you know what I mean?
Yes.
There's not going to be many where those guys don't have the best checkers in their pocket.
That's going to be exciting here when we just get another week or 2 into this thing. Let's take our last break here, the first hour. We'll reset for hour number 2, a little hodgepodge of randomness.
All right.
In hour number 2, as we go through some stats and some of Matt's unearthings. We'll also catch up with our buddy Chris Halleck with all the latest moving and shaking with the Steelers down on the south side. All of that and more in hour number 2 of The Drive. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson, Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Good evening, Steelers Nation. How we doing? Back on the drive here, Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. I don't know, Matt. We had this discussion a couple weeks ago. It's 5 o'clock now, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it's kind of evening. It's no longer afternoon.
I
don't know.
Right,
I'll just leave it alone. I'll leave it be.
It's a tough one, right?
I'll leave it be. But it is time here for hour number 2 on a Wednesday. A kind of pseudo Matt Stats segment, but it can be an intro to Matt Stats. That's a good way to put it. A prequel, a prologue, something like that, if you will. As we'll go through some different numbers, some things that have been unearthed. As again on this Wednesday, you kind of start to turn the page and look ahead. And you have brought up a few times, and I think rightfully so, Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yes.
His usage there, just how big of a part he was, his target share for that Seattle offense.
Insane.
He led the team last week against the Niners, 9 catches, 124 yards. It was his 4th career game with 100-plus receiving yards. This is also, Matt, too, Jackson Smith and Jigba, the last time these teams played 2 years ago out in Seattle, he had a touchdown reception from Geno Smith in that game.
Okay.
And played pretty well. DK Metcalf was a part of that team as well, too. So a guy who is going to be a massive part of Seattle's offense. Scored a touchdown, obviously, against a secondary that will look much different than the last time he faced the Steelers.
Yeah,
but
sure.
what have you unearthed on his usage so far? What do you expect that to look like Sunday at Acrisure Stadium?
So, kind of interesting, this ties in with Metcalf. So, last year with Geno, Metcalf, Lockett there, a much different team. They're all gone. Metcalf got injured, I think it was like week 5 or 6 last year in a Seahawks uniform. And at that point, Metcalf was, people don't realize this, he was having his best year as a pro. Missed 2 games or 3 games, I don't have it in front of me, but you'll get the idea. With a knee, I think. Came back and really wasn't quite the same. And while he was gone, the shift of the offense went much more towards JSN. And part of the reason is, unlike last week, Metcalf is a down-the-field player. You need time to throw. And their offensive line was amongst the worst in the league. And they used a first-round pick on offensive linemen. I can't remember if we've mentioned this or not, but crazy. The Steelers' first 4 opponents all used a first-round pick on an offensive lineman this year. Last week,
I don't think you've mentioned that.
I didn't think we did.
That's
right.
a good Matt stats
How about that?
there.
Yeah. So they've all and they all needed it. I mean, the low lines are works in progress. Jets look like they did a long way to fix theirs. Seattle, based off week 1, did not fix theirs. But Zabel's a good player. He's going to be the left guard. Anyway, so Metcalf returns from injury, and at this point, it's much more of a get it out of your hands, shorter, controlled passing game. Geno's good at all. And Smith and Jigba, from that point on, from the injury on, really was the focal point of the offense. And I do think Metcalf may have returned a little early. He didn't look as good post-injury as pre. Now, he wasn't bad when he came back, but he was at his best before his injury, which I'm sure the Steelers during the trade said, we think we're getting that version. And from what I've seen in camp and in week 1, I think they did. But who knows? I mean, that was part of, the complaints. Was you'd be like, oh, Metcalf's coming off his worst year. I'm like, yeah, but before the injury, he was coming off his best year. Anyway, that doesn't matter anymore. He's not there. He's a Steeler. Week 1, Smith and Jigba was the only thing that went well for the offense. I think Seattle's defense is great. We'll talk about them in the next couple of days. But their offense is problematic. New offensive coordinator, several new linemen, new quarterback. Cooper Kupp's there, who, frankly, I think is kind of washed.
I think he's running on fumes.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of tread left on those tires.
And he was a strange addition because Smith and Jigba is mostly a slot. He's not slot only. He's mostly a slot. And played a lot outside in week 1, which he's good at, but he's best in the slot because Kupp is slot only at this point. I mean, he can't line up outside the numbers and beat man coverage like he once could. Not that it was ever his specialty. So Kupp has to be in the slot. Horton, the rookie, is an outside the numbers type deep threat. He's their third guy, but didn't get a target. He's not going to be out there a ton, but he's their third guy. But it's rare for Smith to Jigba or any player to get the usage that he did in week 1. I mean, he accounted for like 60% of their yards. I mean, like he was the whole offense.
That's like Jamar Chase numbers.
It's like Wilt Chamberlain numbers. I mean, it's like everything that was good was him. You know, like who's got Wilt? I mean, the guy that's got 100 points. So you can't let that happen. It was the only good thing that happened to their offense. They didn't run the ball well. They possessed the football for 22 minutes.
Yeah.
That's really
brutal.
rough. Didn't run many plays. Didn't block particularly well. I thought Darnold played fine. He had a turnover late that everyone's blaming. Oh, he's back to earth. But he played fine. Smith-Njigba is a star in the making, but in that game, he was all they got. Now, what do the Steelers do about that? I would think this one's is easier than the Garrett Wilson conversation, especially if Porter's out, to say, Ramsey, you got JSN. Because in the slot, great. That's what he does. Outside, okay, you could do it.
Yeah.
You know, Eccles could be your slot versus Cup. You know, I don't really want Porter or Slay going in the slot a lot, but if Porter's out, I think you're going to see a lot of Ramsey, JSN, and you will no matter what. But that I'm pretty comfortable with.
I think it is an advantageous matchup for the Steelers defense.
Yeah.
I want to see that translate, though. Like, if we're going, I think there is a lot to like. Obviously, I'm not breaking news here on the offensive side of the football last week. Some of the stuff with the protection, certainly. Some of the stuff with the run game, but you still managed to score 34 points and get the best quarterback play that you've gotten in the post-Ben Roethlisberger era by far. If the defense can kind of, I don't want to say match that because that's the wrong way to put it, but if the defense can start to show some signs of being the unit we think they're capable of being,
it's got to be better than what they did.
That's where the optimism would really start. And Matt, another hodgepodge of randomness from you. The Steelers, since week 13 of last year, have allowed 27.6 points per game.
Yeah.
Now, we also shared that stat of the Steelers split last year of their record when they allowed 18 points or less. They didn't lose a game, 19 points or more. They were brutal.
Much less.
Like 2-6 or whatever, 2-5, whatever they ended up being. Since week 13 of last year, 27.6 points allowed. If you're going to start getting that moving in the right direction, this feels like the right opponent. This feels like a team, an offense in Seattle that is ripe for the picking.
I also thought the Jets were. I mean, I picked that game to be 17-16. It was the lowest over-under total of the week, and I think this one does too. But this one screams two good defenses, and I still think the Steelers count. I know Seattle counts. We had this conversation before the season. I thought there's 5 or 6 defenses that potentially could be the best in the league. These are 2 of them. Now, week 1 does not make me look intelligent at all with the Steelers and what they allowed to what was not a good offense a year ago in New York. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. But this Seattle offense does look ripe for the picking of if you can not let Smith-Njigba be a dominant player, and you can get after Darnold, who doesn't handle pressure, great. Their run game wasn't good in week 1. The offensive line's not particularly good. The tight ends, the other pass catchers are poor, I mean, at this stage. But it's amazing that it's rare that you'll see somebody account for such a large amount of the receiving production as he did in week 1. He was the total show.
Wilt Chamberlain.
Wilt Chamberlain.
I like that. Right. I like that analogy from you.
100-point game.
Let's put the clamps down on that on Sunday. Yeah. Let's force them to go elsewhere. Let's force them to try and lean on Kenneth Walker.
Yeah.
He was another one who had a touchdown last time these two teams played in Seattle a couple years ago.
And people look at Walker like he's clearly the one, but it was almost an even split between him and Charbonnet, and neither one really shined. They both were fine. But, I mean, the blocking was poor. They got issues. And Nick Bosa was a terror. You would hope Watt would be a terror. Watt's gone 5 straight games without a sack. First time in his career. And I think he's due. I don't think he forgot how to sack quarterbacks.
No.
But this is the longest lull of his career. That needs to end.
And that's noteworthy. It certainly is.
And the left side of their O-line is much better than the right.
Okay, interesting. So that's one of those that better change on Sunday.
It seems like a get-right game for a lot of things for the defense.
And I thought T.J. Well played well. I thought T.J. Well played well. I thought T.J. Watt played well on Sunday. But you're right, that is now a 5th straight game without a sack. I'm sure that's something he's aware of, something they want to get moving in the right direction. If this can be a game where the defense holds an opponent to under 20, gets right, feels good about themselves, you see some growth from the offense, I think we would all be very optimistic, after week 2. But that is kind of your hodgepodge of randomness.
Couple little stuff, yeah.
To set the stage there. We will have a full deep dive into all of Matt's stats, numbers, analytics, the game behind the game.
They get turned in as a final document Wednesday night. So that's what I do after my night show tonight is put the final touches on.
I saw the rough draft of it
earlier
today.
You get some early versions
I appreciate that.
But in there, the bullet point on Smith-Njigba is pretty crazy. I mean, just the usage and air yards he's accounted for and all the stuff.
We'll dig into those weeds tomorrow. Deep dive on the program, but we've got to get to a break now because when we come back on the other side, our buddy Chris Hoke, he covers the Steelers for DK Pittsburgh Sports. He's one of Matt and I's favorite guys on the beat. We've talked about how we want to.
Yep, I host a weekly podcast with Chris.
Yes, you do. Yep. He is one of the guys that we hang out with when we're on the road and those type of things, and he is. Similar to what we said about Chris Adamski yesterday. He's a boots-on-the-ground reporter at the facility, at the practices all the time. So we'll ask him about some of these injury concerns, some of these roster moves, and what he thinks about Joey Porter Jr. and Nick Herbig's status ahead of Sunday. All that and more with Chris when we return on the other side. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. You are listening to The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Driving along here on a Wednesday, and to the phone lines we go, and he's going to be one of our, he's not a new friend in real life, Matt, but he's a new friend of the show here. It's our buddy Chris Hoke. He covers the Steelers for DK Pittsburgh Sports. Chris, what's up, man? Welcome to the chaos, and thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks, guys, for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, so let's get right into some of this roster moving and shaking and injury stuff since you are, our boots on the ground, real journo, real reporter down there at practice. Let's start with Joey Porter Jr. That's an interesting one because, Mike Tomlin said that I think optimistic was the word that he used, but you see the move today of James Pierre being activated as well, too. Is there anything there in the tea leaves? Is that just, standard operating procedure for the Steelers as they, work out the roster every single week? Or do you think that there is a real possibility that we won't see Joey Porter Jr. in the home opener Sunday afternoon?
I think there's a real possibility you don't see him, but, there are a number of variables that go into this. The first thought that I had actually when James Pierre was activated wasn't necessarily because of Joey Porter Jr. is because, they only have so many times they can call a guy up from the practice squad and activate him before they have to put him on the roster anyway.
Also lose a special teamer in Harrison too,
Right, and then the other part of that is, I know that they really, really like James Pierre on special teams, and I know they don't want to lose that type of guy. So that's kind of what I chalked that up more to. But yeah, with Joey Porter Jr., listen, I think there's a possibility he doesn't play, but I also think that given the nature of the injury, and anytime it's a soft tissue, a hamstring or calf or anything like that, you never want to chance it. You never want to rush a guy back. And when you have a guy such as Jalen Ramsey that you can just slot right in to play on the outside, and you then bring in Jabril Peppers to be able to play some safety for you. I understand that helps make up for the loss of Deshaun Elliott, but you've got a number of guys. Juan Thornhill can play a little bit more of the free safety that Ramsey normally plays in the base defense. So I don't think you're necessarily lacking too much whenever you decide, hey, let's not rush it with Porter. Let's get him healthy. Let's make sure we have him in the long run. Meanwhile, we can have a really good tandem on the outside at cornerback in Jalen Ramsey and Darius Slay. So I think that's more the mentality there. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if Porter doesn't play, but we have yet to see what the participation level is in practice.
So this is down the line and frankly not ultra important, but it's pretty rare for them to only have two quarterbacks on the roster. Do you think Howard's back sooner than later? I mean, what do you think they do with that third spot?
That's definitely interesting that they do only have 2 right now, and they brought Logan Woodside in, for the practice squad. But they're going to have an emergency third quarterback. You can't go into a game without him. You could, in theory, go into a game without it, but with the beating that Aaron Rodgers had and the game that Broderick Jones had, I don't know if you necessarily want to be going into a game with only 2 quarterbacks. So
it's not their style.
I mean, No, it's not. So you'd like to think that maybe, okay, if Skylar Thompson's going to be on IR, which means he's going to be out for at least the next 4 weeks, then okay, then maybe Will Howard's, on the mend, and he can be back by the time the Steelers get back from Ireland. And when they host the Browns in week 6, maybe he's that third guy, because again, you have 3 times you can elevate a guy from the practice squad. So maybe Logan Woodside is that emergency third quarterback for weeks 2, 3, and 4. And by the time the week 5 bye is in the rearview mirror and week 6 rolls around, maybe Will Howard is good to go.
Chris, maybe kind of final housekeeping one from me as it relates to Nick Herbig. Seemed like Mike Tomlin was a little more optimistic with him. You think we see Herbig make his season debut on Sunday?
Well, the fact that he was limited in practice every single day last week is already a pretty good sign. And no, he wasn't active on Sunday, but they obviously had a plan in place because they didn't even elevate an edge rusher from the practice squad. They only elevated Pierre. That was the only guy who called up from the practice squad last week. So,
and plus Harrison played a little edge too, and that's not in the mix right now.
Yeah, it's not. So you either have to go with Herbig this week if you feel like he's healthy enough, or you probably have to bring a guy up from the practice squad like DeMarvin Leal. I think there's a much better chance he plays, but again, it's his participation level in practice. He's not quite on that level where Mike Tomlin's going to be like, you know what, if he doesn't practice throughout the week, it's okay. I'm going to go ahead and no, he's going to be a guy he's probably got to have at least a full day of participation, at least 1 day of full participation this week, if we have any real chance of seeing him on Sunday.
Chris, I haven't seen or heard your opinion yet on Peppers. Are you a fan? What do you think he brings to the table? What do you think his role is this week, as maybe even more importantly, the rest of the year going forward?
Well, I would think, at least right away, that I would be shocked if he plays a bunch of snaps on Sunday, because he's got to get acclimated to the defense. So for fans who are excited about the addition, I wouldn't expect to see him too often. I would still expect to see more Juan Thornhill, Chuck Clark, like that safety tandem. But I'm not saying you won't see him at all. But listen, this is a versatile guy. It's a guy that Mike Tomlin obviously has seen play. He was in Cleveland for a couple of years. His versatility. This team loves having guys who can play multiple positions, and that's exactly what Peppers does. He's a physical guy. To think that at some point they could have, in theory, once Deshaun Elliott's back, any like when you have Jalen Ramsey and Deshaun Elliott and Jabril Peppers, like you have a lot of guys who can just lay the wood. Like you have a lot of guys who can really hit. And that's the kind of defense I think that fans would really, really like to see. But no, I think he's going to be a player that fans are really going to like because of, again, that's his ability to play all over the place and the ability to lay some big hits. I'm sure we saw how excited fans were after the way Jalen Ramsey slammed the door on the Jets. It's a different level of excitement when a guy can hit a guy really, really hard and make a play doing it.
Certainly can. You saw the pop from that, the NFL Films video and Steelers social video too of Aaron Rodgers celebrating and getting all fired up on the sideline. Hopefully plenty more of that Sunday in the home opener against Seattle. Before we do kind of turn the page in that direction, Chris Halleck with us here on The Drive. I just wanted to get your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers and just the encouragement, the excitement now going forward. I mean, the run game was not there.
No.
The pass protection was not there, and he was still able to have a 4-touchdown performance, no turnovers, just what they needed from the future Hall of Fame quarterback. I think, Chris, that's a pretty encouraging starting point for a guy who didn't play in the preseason. Same with DK Metcalf. Not a ton of in-stadium work up to that point. If they can really work out some of those issues with the offensive line, get the run game just on some kind of stable footing, I think people are going to be very thrilled, very excited from what we see from Aaron Rodgers all year.
What you guys are talking about, because Pro Football Focus knows exactly what they're talking about, their grading system, and they gave him a pretty poor grade of 54.5. No, I'm joking, guys. Like, no, he was awesome, and what grades like that don't take into account are the type of things that he does before the snap, the little details he makes when he's trying to, the first touchdown pass of the game, he made this point at the safety who was creeping down and then brought Calvin Austin over in motion. And that's part of the design play. But when you make that point and you almost make it look like you're bringing a guy in to look like you're trying to block for a run or something along those lines, you're doing everything you can to sell out or to make the defense sell out for the run when you're really obviously running play action. And lo and behold, Ben Skowronek runs streaking across the middle of the field, and the closest thing to him are the ends of his golden locks flying out of the back of his helmet because there's no jet around him in sight. Because you have, like, when you have a quarterback that can do that kind of stuff before the snap, who can diagnose a defense, that already gives you an advantage. And then when you look at what he did from a clean pocket, which was like 20 of 25. Like, that's wildly efficient. And if this offensive line can figure out a way to protect him on any kind of regular basis, you're looking at, I'm not saying that this is going to be the 2021 version of Rodgers or anything like that, but he's already shown you what he can do when he's given time to throw and get through his reads and his progressions. I mean, the arm talent's still there, man. I would be very, very encouraged based off of what we saw on Sunday. I thought it was a great performance and a level of quarterback we haven't seen in quite a while.
So not everything was roses on Sunday, to say the least. And this is something Wes and I have not discussed, but I've been kicking it around in my cranium lately. That first off, there's this misconception when the run defense isn't good enough, go get Casey Hampton, go get Joel Steed. And that's not really how the league works anymore. There's so much nickel. There's so much, you don't just stick a huge fire plug in the middle of the defense to solve everything. That being said, the more I watch Benton, and I don't know your opinion on this, Chris, I don't think he's a nose. I think he's miscast there. That Ukele, I thought, played pretty well. I'm super high on Y.A. Black. Would you consider kind of a position change and having those two be your nose and let Benton do more Cam Hayward-Harmon stuff?
Personally, I agree with you. I don't think Benton's a nose. And actually, whenever they were going into the offseason initially, and I knew they were going to be focusing heavily on defensive tackle from the very beginning of the draft process. I remember learning that back covering the Senior Bowl. Like, that was going to be their key emphasis right away. And I'm thinking, okay, well, Benton's, they can get another really, like, interior guy, maybe more of a nose
Kenneth
guy.
Grant or somebody like that.
Yeah. And then they could slide Benton out to play more of the 4-eye, which is what the defensive end is in the 3-4, in the Steelers 3-4. And that hasn't been the case. Now, just because I think that and you think that doesn't mean that's what Mike Tomlin's thinking, because that's not what he's thinking right now. He's not thinking about, potential changes, and I understand why. You don't want to flap in the wind and make a change. Hey, week one we got to make a change. It's because when you do that, you show instability, you show lack of faith, and then players lose lack of faith in themselves, and it's a difficult line to ride for sure.
And I'm not saying he's entirely to blame for the issues, but I don't think he's a nose.
But there were some. Very first run of the game, he got absolutely walloped by the right guard. The right guard comes over, and he's immediately takes on the center, and then the right guard comes over, knocks him over to the point where he then falls over a guy who was trying to block Cam Hayward, and that was the one thing that blew that entire play up, because everybody else had a gap filled or was on a block and was able to get off of a block, and all it took was that one little crease for Breece Hall to go for 18 yards. And sometimes that's all it takes is one guy to lose.
Those guys, yeah. And real quick, there's a lot of instances in that game as well as the Raven game where Benton's in the lap of Wilson and Queen, and they can't do their jobs.
Yeah, exactly. And that makes it really difficult. And the one guy, and already have seen, and I don't understand why, the level of or the lack of faith that fans have in Patrick Queen. I'm sorry, I don't see how you can watch that game and think that Patrick Queen was part of the problem. He wasn't. Like, some of it was schematics, which the coaches, like Mike Tomlin even said, like, we have to do a better job of supporting these guys schematically.
Yeah.
But that defensive line also had a hard time. They were getting pushed around by a Jets offensive line that's, in my professional opinion, really struggled last year.
They certainly did, and I think they are an improved unit. I think they will be a much better offensive line in New York, but don't think any of us expected it to look that good right out of the gate, especially without Elijah Vera-Tucker. And speaking of offensive lines, Chris, last one I've got for you. I know you were in the locker room today after practice. What's the mood? What was the conversation like around Broderick Jones after some struggles in Week 1?
Oh, Brod, he spoke to the media today, and that's part of the job. You got to face the music when you play bad. And he didn't run away. He was very forthright in saying, "Hey, I didn't play well. I wasn't happy with it." And then when asked about like what he's working on to fix, he said everything. like you could tell. I mean, he wasn't satisfied with that performance. He's unhappy with it, and that's what you should hear probably after a performance like that. And so, but the one good thing is that, guys, especially a guy such as Aaron Rodgers, is not throwing him under the bus. He's saying, I still have a lot of faith. I mean, Aaron Rodgers spoke today too. He said, I still have a lot of faith in Broderick. I like Brod. He's a positive mind guy and said a lot of, good things about him. And sometimes that's, all it takes, to at least have a guy in a good headspace, make sure that he's not, beating himself up. And then maybe he can clean some things up in practice, and maybe he, turns in a better game against the Seahawks, and just take it one game at a time. But, the mood is always fine, and that's what it should be, especially after a win, because even though some things can be really, really bad in a game, a win is a win, and that's why you still see guys smiling in the locker room after the game, because you can be like, yeah, I played like absolute trash, but hey, we won, and we'll take the lessons with a 1-0 record instead of an 0-1 record. So, but these guys are continuing they're turning the page to the Seahawks, and Broderick is doing that too, and he's working on a lot of things.
You don't think his playing time's in any jeopardy right now, do you?
I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't
think yet.
I mean, that's kind of early. And now I understand. So here's the line the Steelers have to ride here, and Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin, these guys have to ride. Is that they have to make a decision on his 5th-year option next offseason.
Massive. And
that's a massive decision they have to make. Now, that would then tell you long term, okay, no matter what, he's playing all 17 games because we need to know. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you've built this roster with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, and you went out and got Jalen Ramsey, and you got DK Metcalf, and this is a roster that is, from the way that they built it, is built to try to compete. And if you feel like you have a real chance to compete, but Broderick Jones is allowing your 41-year-old quarterback to get obliterated every week, you might have to make a change to give yourself a legitimate chance, because I don't think you have a chance of competing if Aaron Rodgers isn't the quarterback. So
they also don't have Jonathan Ogden on the bench either.
Right.
That would help.
Calvin Anderson as your
You
got Calvin Anderson as your backup. So but then, and see, that's the thing. Calvin Anderson is a pro.
True.
Feel like
he's not going to blow assignments
Right. If you feel like, okay, listen, like Rod is not getting the job done. If he does like 3 sacks and 4 pressures every week, that's a problem. Like, you can at least put Calvin Anderson and be like, okay, well, at least I know this guy's a pro. He might not be very good, but at least he's going to keep Aaron Rodgers upright a little bit more often than Broderick is. And shoot, man, we need Aaron if we're going to compete for a Super Bowl.
That they certainly do. Chris Hallett, kind enough to take some time for us here on a busy Wednesday. Make sure you're checking out his work, DK Pittsburgh Sports. Chris, thanks so much for the time, dude, and we'll be looking forward to talking to you throughout the season.
Hey, guys, I appreciate it.
There he is. There he goes. Chris Hallett down at the facility, boots on the ground. And, yeah, Matt, a lot
of good information there, yeah.
A lot of good information there. And there's a lot that needs to, even on the back of a win, and a lot to be encouraged by. There's certainly a lot that needs to be improved upon Sunday. Starts in the trenches, though, on both sides of the ball.
1,000%. We didn't even talk about the Steelers running game. It's way below the bar right now.
Certainly. One more segment to go. We'll wrap up this show when we return on the other side. Matt Williamson, Wes Uhler. It's The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Final segment of the day here on The Drive as we close down this Wednesday and our kind of final in-between-ish day here. You look ahead on Wednesday. You do your final crossing T's and dotting I's from the previous week. And, Matt, I wanted to follow up with you on something that you asked our buddy Chris Hoke there, which I thought was very good, very astute, and deserves just a few more minutes of conversation. Keanu Benton usage.
Yeah.
Because I do think that it's 1 week, but there's also a sample size from last year where people are starting to wonder if maybe he's being asked to do some square peg, round hole type things.
Yeah, and I think he kind of has been from the start. We know the nose tackle position is no longer Casey Hampton. Just eat up 2 blocks, take that center, and eat up both A gaps. That's not really what they're looking for. But Casey Hampton would be useful right about now.
Well, he would be useful at any time.
At any time.
In history, but yes.
And what's weird about the situation, I threw out Black or Ukele being a combination or the full-time nose and moving Benton. I think it'd be much better for Benton long-term, but he hasn't really done it. I mean, playing the 4-eye position is the inside shoulder of the tackle. That's where Cam Hayward lines up. It's not something people do much in college. It's kind of a Steeler thing. It's an Aaron Smith thing. It's not. You would think you just line up over big people. It's all the same. It isn't. Blocks come at you different. You attack the quarterback different, etc. So he wouldn't be able to do it overnight. And he still is going to be a defensive tackle in their nickel and dime, which is a 4-man front, and which is a high percentage anyway. But I think it's a failed experiment at him at nose more and more. He just does not play the run well enough or stout enough to be that guy right now. And I think there's a lot of ability there.
There is certainly a lot of ability there. And we all saw it on display his rookie season. That hasn't gone anywhere. But I think especially against opponents like the Jets that are going to be very run heavy.
Right.
Baltimore going to be very run heavy.
Oh, yeah. Up the middle power stuff. Right.
It seems like, again, you do want to use the sample size from last year because that obviously carries over.
Mm-hmm. This is year 3, for him.
But at the same time, too, you do have to kind of draw a line in the sand of this is a new year and that's just one game.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're flirting with the whole definition of insanity thing.
Yeah, I
like doing
agree.
the same thing but expecting different results. You're flirting with it. I'm not ready to go all in and cannonball into that deep end, but you're getting close to the diving board.
And with Chris's point though, and this isn't exactly how he said it, but I will. Maybe you should have done this day 1 of camp, not after as you get ready for week 2.
Again, to our point, there's only so much time to get ready.
That's a little unfair for everybody involved too. Now, I thought Ukele was one of the defensive players that played pretty well. I can see seeing more of him, and I know we've talked to Max Starks about him when we were talking about like roster cut down. He thought, oh, he's making this team for sure, and they're high on him. So, and I get that. The other aspect of it though is, despite him being huge and powerful, Iowa didn't play really with a nose, and Y.A. Black was not a nose at Iowa. He was more of a 3 technique. He was on the outside shoulder of the guard a lot, and he still did nosy things. He ate up a lot of blockers, and people didn't run at him with effectively. But it is a new technique for him too, if he were to become more nosy than end. But he has a skill set to do it. He has the power to do it. He has the size to do it, and because I think because he's played so well, we have seen him align all over the defensive line, at least in the preseason. You hate making changes after week 1 or whatever, but I think these are logical things to consider.
Yes. Not not mashing the panic button yet.
Right,
but you have the backdrop of last year, 1 week now, certainly something to keep an eye on and something that I think we'll be discussing going forward as well.
I think Black can handle more.
Yeah.
He's very impressive.
I completely agree with you. Completely agree. And I think we're going to see that usage ramp up. It was also that conversation kind of works the other way too. Like you needed to get Y.A. Black out there to get a data point, to get some real snaps, to start to figure out what you have in him. Hopefully now they can find the right balance between those two.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Matt, another show in the books, another Wednesday in the books. Tomorrow we fully turn the page to those Seattle Seahawks.
Love it.
We'll have a deep dive into some Matt stats. We'll catch up with Bob Labriola for the first time this year.
Yeah, Labs moves from Wednesday to Thursday this year.
Take a look at that big Thursday night game as well, too. Plenty to get into on tomorrow's show, but that'll do it for us today. Big thanks to Matt. Big thanks to Mr. TV, our video producer. Everybody out there, take care, and we'll talk to you soon. As always, you know where to find us. It's on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. It's Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network.